Hello there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey. Today, we are here in the Outliers podcast, and we get a chance to focus on how you can be authentic, high performant, and impactful with your personal brand by being more you and generate the income that is necessary to fuel your impact in the long run. We have today an amazing entrepreneur and an amazing outlier who has been doing that for years. And I'm really, really honored to be able to share more about her and the way that she does things in her Outliers Edge to continue to create the impact and income and more in her life from there. And that is Regina Huber. Regina, it is an absolute pleasure to spend time with you. I feel really excited to find out more about you and to share you with the other outliers out there.
Thank you so much, Niiamah. I am delighted to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we've been connected here. I like to start off each conversation just sharing a bit about who you've been to me so far. And part of the reason we do this is that one of the things we highlight here is that the way that people feel on the inside versus the way that they look on the outside. And so I want to just let you know the impact that you've been having on me. And what I get about you is that I can trust you in an area of chaos and confusion. And that's probably not where we would have thought we would have gone, but we came into this conversation starting out unclear with where like with the foundation on which we were going to have our conversation here. And what I really appreciate about you was just like both the professionalism, but also the fun that you brought as we were navigating how we wanted to have this conversation and where we would go. And that to me speaks volumes. There's things I can say around a lot of other things, but like it was easy, it was smooth, and it was like a wonderful transition to get out of like a place of uncertainty and to come into a place where we're like, we're solid, we know where we're going, and we know where we're moving forward. And not everyone brings that to the table. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much here. And I want to acknowledge you for your ability to create both confidence and calmness in a place of uncertainty. And I really like doing that dance with you, Regina.
Well, thank you so much. I'm certainly used to uncertainty.
Well, I want to hear more about that here. Why don't you let outliers out here get some context about you? Tell us about the game that you're playing, the mission that you stand for, and the business that you're building.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for allowing me to do that. I am a transformational leadership coach, an inspirational speaker and author, and also a podcast host like you, Niiamah. And my podcast is called Rise to Lead. It's a leadership podcast for bold, heart-centered leaders because I stand for that bold and heart-centered leadership. Also in my work with my clients, I'm also the CEO of Transform Your Performance. It's a coaching, speaking, and training business. I have had this ever since I moved to New York City. Now, what is it now? About 12 years ago. Although it didn't happen from one day to the next, of course, it was a process. As usually happens with businesses, some grow faster than others. And mine was quite a process because I was still cleaning up the mess from a previous business in Brazil. And I had to travel back and forth. So it was a little bit slower in the beginning, but I definitely wanted to create something meaningful and something that brought all my eclectic experience that has been formed also through a lot of uncertainty into a so to speak, a package that made sense for other people and that would provide value and that would be fun for myself at the same time and fulfilling. So I'm originally from a tiny little village in Germany, lived most of my life outside of Germany after the age of 26 when I moved to Spain. That was my first time abroad. I've since lived on several different continents in Spain, Argentina, Brazil, West Coast, East Coast of the US, and also have spent time on the African continent, which is very dear to my heart because I love African dancing and all of that and music. So I just love going there. And currently between the US and France. And so as you see, my experience is quite adventurous and also quite eclectic. So I own businesses also in Brazil and Argentina, but I've had jobs also and leadership positions that prepared me for what I do now. So yeah, I work with one-on-one coaching clients as well as corporate clients or small businesses and event organizers who may want to hire me as speakers for speaking engagements, trainings, which for the most part, are focused on leadership topics, but also personal development and career. So my coaching is very holistic. I want to say it that way, or some call it multidisciplinary. And the reason for that is twofold, I believe. It's because, first of all, I studied a lot of holistic modalities, methodologies that contribute to my knowledge and to what I can provide as a coach to my clients. It's taught me a lot about the subconscious mind, for example, and about the role of energy in business and in business presence. And then it's also because I know, not just believe, but know that life is a holistic phenomenon, and we often split it up artificially into different areas, but it's really one entire entity, right? So yeah. I think one thing that also might be special is that I can coach and train in several different languages based on my living experience in those countries. So yeah.
All right, just so we can, I like the several different languages components of it. What languages do you have just to get some of that in here?
Well, I speak more than four, but I work in
Oh,
four.
wow, that's awesome.
So I speak English as we're speaking now.
Mhm.
Of course, German, which is my native language. I speak Spanish and Portuguese fluently. And then I also speak French, although it's been a little in the shadow because I work in those other languages all day long. So I don't get that much practice. And yeah, and I understand Italian quite well. I know how to use it, for a vacation, whatever, but I have not studied all of it.
Mm.
And then a beautiful Bavarian dialect at home. It's
Mm.
not a language, but and of course, like so many people, I studied Latin, which no one really speaks, and I don't
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. I haven't brought that film not brought up Latin in a while, like because I also studied that
Yeah.
in the past. I'm like, oh yeah, Latin, like that actually sets up a great foundation. Regina, excuse me. I am really, really glad that you are here. Right. Transformational leadership is it's near and dear to my heart. And I like the energy that you bring to it. Right. Not only do you bring the energy to it, but you've created a successful business. You've done multiple businesses, and also grown in your own career. One of the things that you said when during this context setting that really struck me was you said you take all your uncertainty. I'm paraphrasing. It was about like this. Take your uncertainty and you put it into a package that makes sense to other people and provides value. That I think is one of the core parts of Outliers Edge altogether. It's like, how can we take, if we might use uncertainty, we might use like difference, we might use the uniqueness, we might use my unconventional experience and past, so on and so forth. But translating that into a package that makes sense for other people and provides value. And I think the only other word I might add there is like, and that they find valuable so that you can get the money to come in with that. I'd like to spend some time with you. This is kind of unpacking more of that together. You good with that?
Good. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. So tell me here. Let's start off with like just given you've had you've lived you have so many different experiences, right? How are you finding ways to be able to package it all together right now? So like maybe you can give us a sense as to like how's it culminated for you right now, and then I'll like to explore a little bit more about like your process to get in here because I think a lot of outliers are like, but I have all this, and maybe I should put this part of my life away and only let you see the small little tiny bit because now I'm a XYZ. So let's start off with like how that's culminating for you now, and then we'll go and look and see like what was your process to get in there.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I want to say that the unknown or uncertainty, the unknown bears lots of possibilities that we don't know of yet, right? So if we never step into the unknown, then we deprive ourselves of knowing what else is out there for us, what other possibilities could exist that we have no clue about right now. So I think, traveling and moving to other countries brings some of that, of course. You don't know exactly what to expect. You might have an idea, maybe, but once you get there, everything's different. And then there's also a difference, of course, between whether you stay for a week or for a year or for 10 years. You get a much deeper understanding of a place. And you know this because you have done this.
Yeah.
Niiamah, when you spend more time, when you also, even when you only travel, let's just say you are on a trip of 2 weeks, when you travel alone, and I actually just published a LinkedIn post on this earlier this week, you learn so many valuable lessons that otherwise you might actually not learn, because you have to talk to people, for example. There's nobody else to talk to with
Yep.
you. And if you need anything, you need to ask somebody for help that you might not know. So that makes the whole experience so different. And I believe also more enriching sometimes. It's great to share with somebody when you travel. That's another enriching piece for sure. It's just a different experience, right? And I personally am also a very freedom-loving person. I am a very free spirit. I like to be open-minded. I like to open up my horizon through my travels, through moving from place to place, and making all those experiences, which are not always only joyful. Sometimes they are painful. Sometimes they are hard. Sometimes we need to figure stuff out that we don't know. And at times we need to do it very quickly, but also the moving and traveling by myself has taught me resourcefulness, and it's taught me resilience. It's taught me a lot, many more things, of course, but these are two things that I want to mention right now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Like, you're right. Like, I lived in Singapore for 4 years, and one of the bigger takeaways I got from that was when my wife invited me. She invited me to like be more adventurous. My background was as an actuary. I was like, I don't need to take. I understand risk. I know risk is opportunity, but I'm okay. And I remember when I finally started to let my hair down. My hair doesn't really go down, but and to step into the opportunities, the risks that were there, and I'm talking to you now. I didn't spontaneously combust or anything like that. So I love how that compounds. I'm gonna go back to some certain portion of the question that I asked earlier, which is around like how you choose to package like like your experiences together. So tell us a little bit more about like and the reason I'm asking this is that I think a lot of outliers out there, like they have these different experiences, but they're like essentially they're looking at you like, what's my menu? What are the offers that I put out there? How do I get people to actually like, how do I craft this into a program? Or maybe the program's easy to do, but how do I actually talk to people in a way that like helps them come into alignment with what it is that I have to offer, given that I've had so many different things take place in my life here. So I'll be kind of curious. I'll be not kind of, I'm very curious about your experience taking, the variety of experiences you've had and then turn it into something that can be packaged and received by other people and as clients.
Yes, absolutely. In my coaching practice, Transform Your Performance, what I do is, as I said earlier, I drive bold, heart-centered leadership. Now, I've seen a lot of leadership all over the world, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I still am seeing a lot of different leadership styles. I have been a leader as a business owner and in corporate, actually at a global consulting firm. Um, I help leaders level up their leadership, not just of others, but also of self. And I think this is a very important component so that they can not just be more successful as leaders of teams and advance their careers and all that good stuff, but also feel more fulfilled at the same time. So they can actually become thriving leaders. That's my goal. And they can live what I call a freaking amazing life. That's what I want everybody to experience. And that is not a perfect life. It's just a life that's perfect for you. I want my clients to have that. And they don't always know how to figure that out and where to find it, because a lot of people don't even know what they really, really want deep down in their hearts. And that's why I said I take a holistic approach. Sometimes people think they want something, but it's actually something that other people want for them. And that's why they are very unhappy in their careers, for example. And that's also sometimes what stops them from moving ahead, apart from other, factors like sometimes external factors or negotiation skills. Yes, all of that is also important, and we address that too in my coaching approach. But a lot of it is self-leadership, right? Because as I said, or I think I said before as well, everything I do is in the service of freedom. And it is also that freedom for my clients to speak up, stand out, and shine. I call it sometimes like the title of my first book. Because when you know what your unique brilliance is, then you can shine with it. You gotta know, own, and show your value in your career as a leader, as a business owner. It doesn't matter. It's the same for everybody, right? So I believe it's really worth spending more time on self-leadership as the most important leadership trait of all, in my opinion. And really dig deep with what is it that we truly, truly want, not just for ourselves, but also what is the difference we want to make in the world? What is our passion? And I know a lot of people talk about passion, so I'm not going to go deep with passion, but it's just really that deep desire that we all have. I believe we came with this to this world, with this desire, but it's been suppressed for a lot of people, and I want to help them find it.
Awesome. Thank you there, Regina. And, there's, I'm going to ask, you have me thinking about a couple different things. You mentioned having multiple businesses in different countries. And one of the places that I want to try and get a handle on for you is like how you manage that, and like a little bit more from like the systems kind of side of things. And the reason I bring this in is because a lot of times, especially as I've been working more and more with my clients, I feel like a lot of us, there's a lot more like winging it that takes place up into a certain point, and then like to be traveling all over, working with leaders on their self leadership in a way that transforms them, and still have multiple businesses in different countries. Like there's likely things that you have done and figured out that like actually like if we have these things in place, everything else is able to grow from there. So can you talk about some of like the systems that you've put into your, we'll start off with your business, and if we need to, we'll go to your life, in order to make this all work? Because I think what I get about you is like you live a freaking amazing life. And I'm like, how do you keep all this going and make it smooth and for yourself and for your clients?
Yes. So first of all, I want to say this is my third business. I haven't had the businesses in parallel, right? So I previously owned
Okay, great.
completely different businesses.
Okay,
In
awesome. That's really great. Great to thank you for that distinction there. It's really helpful.
Yeah. So the businesses I owned in Argentina and Brazil were completely different businesses. In Argentina, I owned a bed and breakfast. That's just what I wanted to do at the time. I had no freaking clue how to do that before I started doing it. I had no previous experience. No, just like I was promoted into a leadership role at age 27 in Spain, and I had no relevant background or no prior experience or studies, right? So I've learned a lot by doing. I want to say that very clearly. Sometimes we just got to take that leap and then dare take the step of what we want to do at that time, and it might change over the years, and that's fine. We sometimes think we have to have that one purpose in life. No, there might be several different purposes, and as we move along, we build on the previous chapters.
Mm.
They always give us something valuable for the next chapter.
I love this element of like of doing here, because I feel like for us as outliers, like it's like we can't read a book on how, like if you're stepping out and you're doing things that are different from the norm, there's no book on that. It's why we share these stories here. So it's just like, hey, by the way, what Regina did is like it's going to be different in your life, but like you can walk down the path and create your path your way. So thanks for bringing that in here. Please continue. I like, but that when you talked about that, I'm like, I think there's a lot of merit to like the actual, no matter what we talk about, you got to do it. Outliers. You got to go out there and actually take the action on it. So go ahead, Regina. You were telling us like
Yes,
not three
absolutely.
consecutive businesses.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for pointing that out. Yes, absolutely. There's no point in waiting until something's perfect. That keeps us stuck. It keeps us paralyzed. And so we got to take action sometimes. Also, as I said, these businesses were very different. They were brick and mortar businesses. I had to deal with corrupt authorities. I had to learn how to find my way through that jungle of paperwork, of all these different obstacles that were put in my way at times that just I was not expecting at the beginning. And I learned a lot through that. I learned a lot of resilience. I learned resourcefulness. These were definitely two of my favorite lessons. And I also learned that I could do it. I could make this work. And even though there were times when it was tough, if I just stuck with my inner power and I believed that I could move through it, I could. And so this is how I brought some of these knowledge and wisdom, more than knowledge, even wisdom nuggets and gems into my current business, right? And then, of course, in this business, what I have also done over time, I have built several different frameworks that serve as a basis for my coaching approach. And that also helped me to get my message across to other people, to have them understand what my coaching is all about. Because if I just say, oh, it's a holistic approach, yeah, that's nice. But people cannot really imagine much, right? So I have to package it into a framework. My first framework was called Powerful Leadership Transformation. That is, in fact, a lot about self-leadership. Having said that, it can absolutely be transferred to any team once you have that knowledge. And you will, of course, also model it to your team by embodying the principles of this self-leadership framework. And then I have created some other frameworks, like, for example, the Thriving Leader Formula, which is very much focused on coaching and becoming that thriving leader and having that freaking amazing life. And then there's another framework that is more geared towards your team to build happier and more engaged teams. And that is called the New Paradigm Leadership. And I have created that one because I believe that we need new paradigms in leadership. Simple as that.
I love the simplicity of that one, by the way. And part of why I love the simplicity is you said something that struck me, which was like they couldn't imagine it. They couldn't imagine it, and that you leverage these frameworks as a way to help people imagine. And I think that's like when you put it in that context, it actually like lightened something up in my mind, like a light bulb goes on in my mind as well, because I find a lot of the ways that I get clients that I bring people in, I'm just like, just come have an experience, because I can't truly articulate it to you. And as you say it, I'm like, it may not be that my articulation is off. It just might be like, in what way can I transfer your like the vision so that you can actually imagine it? And I like, in what I'm hearing from you is like you found that frameworks have worked out very, very well for you, especially because I can see it. I can, like, as you're talking, I can see like, oh, you've lived so many different lives. You had multiple businesses. You've done brick and mortar. You got promoted to senior leadership at age 27. Like, you've done all these different things. So, like, you've seen it. You've had to develop your own frameworks. You had to develop your own ways of going through, and you know what is possible. And you can see that already, but like it's harder for other people to imagine that. And there's something in there. Allies, I'm going to ask you to just like slow down on that, like, and see like what is the ways that you can help stimulate the imagination of the people that you want to serve, whether they're as clients, whether they're on your team. There's something in that thing that also feels very playful, to create like a structured way for them to be able to start to imagine and start to see it in there. Regina, is there anything you want to add to that? Anything you want to clarify as I hone in on that specific portion of it?
Yes, I do want to add something. A framework gives you the option and the opportunity to depict your ideas, your framework graphically. And a lot of people are primarily visual learners. So it gives you also that opportunity to show it to people. For example, I have a frameworks page on my website, transformyourperformance.com. You can look it up and you can see those frameworks and what they look like and what they consist of, what their main elements are. This just makes it easier. This does not mean, by the way, that I do not customize or tailor my coaching approach. I absolutely do. Every person is different. I completely tailor the coaching program to you in one-on-one coaching. Obviously, yes, that's necessary. However, you can get an idea of what I can teach you as part of the coaching program if you need to learn these skills or these components. Yes, for example, one of the tools that or set of tools, I should say, that I can give you is around conversational intelligence. That is something I studied, and I studied it specifically for coaching. This is also on my website. It's not necessarily called that in the framework, but I have an element of the new paradigm leadership framework that is called message. That is also, among other things, about conversational intelligence, for example. So I'm only giving you one example, right? Because it's, of course, more complex than that. So we pick and choose what's relevant for your specific path and for your needs, for your challenges that you want to move through.
Yeah, I love this here, Regina, and I'm going to talk to Outliers a bit on this one here because what I'm getting here is a couple of things. One, you've organized the different experiences that you've had into a framework, and those frameworks are not like they're not like isolated in themselves, right? There are skills that bridge multiple frameworks, that skills that bridge multiple goals. So if I'm hearing you, there's like components of one that can be used in another. But first I wanted to start off with like I love that you went with frameworks when I asked you about systems. I really do, because it ended up being really like to me it's simple. It's like there's something that you're doing already that naturally works for you. And I talk a lot about like the stages of competency and going, and the hardest one going from uh unconscious competence, which is like I do it and I don't even know how it gets done. I just do it, to conscious unconscious competence, which is getting the distinction of saying how does this actually work? And then how do I actually help other people do it who aren't me? And what I'm hearing from you is that you found a great way through your frameworks to capture that. And then you took this thing where it was working on me as you were saying this. We talked earlier around like you learn by doing.
Mhm.
However, you translate the learn by doing into a here goes a visual way, because other people learn by through visualization. You know, I think about it here on the podcast. I'm like, you can talk to me and I get it. I can see it, you know? And so one of the places I'm looking to build is how do I help other people visualize? And I think that's the role of a leader. That was one of my bigger takeaways in the last few years, which is like, nothing I'm saying is wrong. I'm just not doing the work of helping them imagine, helping them visualize what it is that I'm saying. So I'm spending all this word power on it when it's like I just showed them a graph or I shared my screen or whatever it is and be like, got it. Let's move on. Let's move on. So I want to call that into perspective, because I think a lot of us outliers out there are like we're spinning our wheels. Not and what I appreciate about you and what I would recognize is that you've done the work of translating who you are, how you see the world into a way that is digestible for others, right? That goes back to how you package it so that it makes sense to other people, right? Uh,
Yes.
yeah, like so I want to call that in. You said something else that was really important, but I want to call that in. We're going to start like wrapping up, and I like to wrap up by seeing like what's most exciting in your world. So we still have more to cover here. But is there anything else that you want to put in the context of this, especially for I love that element of the customization too, because like as outliers, sometimes we're like we don't want to be pigeonholed. We don't want to just do the same thing each time. Like we need our freedom. We talked about freedom, and I love how that yet you're able to juxtapose the freedom. Like you have a structured framework, but it actually gives you even more freedom to customize it more for the individual in front of you. And so let me I'll stop there. Is there anything else that you feel like is lighting up in you around any of this part of the topic, and then we'll jump on to some of the things that are exciting you right now.
Well, the one thing you just said it. I just was going to add the word structure, right?
Mm,
Just said the word structure,
hmm.
structured framework, because it adds structure, and some people need structure.
Yeah,
This also, by the way, then helps you create courses or trainings around it.
yeah,
Once you have that structure, now it's easy to also find the structure for a course if you want to do a course, or for a talk, a presentation. It's really very helpful in that sense as well. And you mentioned visualizing. Yes, we as leaders need to be visionary. We need to be able to envision. And I think frameworks also help us do that, right? They help us envision what it can look like for a team, how it all fits together, right? How it all fits together, I think, is the right way of saying it.
I love it. When you said envision, I was thinking, I don't know how it's spelled, but it's like I was thinking outvision as well.
Yeah.
The component of like, how do we take this out and make sure other people can catch the vision? Well, let's see this year. Like, the conversation went in an amazing way. I'm so glad we got to spend time here. I know that you do epic things. I know that you've taken on epic challenges. You continue to live an epic life, a freaking amazing life here. So let me ask you here, what's something that you're building right now that feels freaking amazing to you, that feels really epic here? And tell us about the journey that you're creating for yourselves right now.
It's funny that you're saying it in this way, because I actually just have finished writing the draft. I'm still working a little bit on some details, but of my second book, which is called My Freaking Amazing Life. And the subtitle is Create the Life That's Perfect for You Anywhere in the World, because that's the message, right? It's not so much about me, although, yes, I'm telling my stories and all of that, but I'm also in the book telling you what I have learned through those stories. And I think one of the important messages that I'm sharing in the book is that every single person that crosses our path is our teacher. Now, we sometimes think that people are our enemies or our adversaries, and in reality, they are our teachers. They are our allies in growth, right? And just as we want to see all those situations that we often call adversity as opportunities for growth, we also want to see these people as allies. That makes it easier to forgive them, but also to forgive ourselves in those situations, because that's oftentimes the hardest part. And just recognize that everything is about growth. So that's one project that I'm doing right now. I just launched my podcast, Rise to Lead, recently, and very excited about that too. I just published, I think today, episode 9. I've recorded many, many more already. There are some awesome guests coming up as well, so I'm very excited about that. It's all about heart-centered leadership as well. To me, what's really important in leadership is that we can inspire leaders to lead from a pure intention. That is very dear to my heart. I know I'm not going to succeed with everybody in those positions, but at least I want to inspire it as much as I can through my podcast and through the guests I'm bringing on. They share tremendous wisdom. I love bringing on lots of very different guests from different backgrounds, business owners, people in corporates. I just had somebody on who is just an amazing guy because he's so emotionally intelligent. And that's why I brought him on. That was my main reason, right? This is such an important leadership trait, emotional intelligence. So yes, I'm very excited about this podcast. I always am up for speaking engagements. So I'm currently looking to get more of those in-person speaking engagements on my calendar. Again, I love traveling for those. And yeah, so this is my plan. Otherwise, most things are probably going to continue as they have been.
I like that. Like, and how, if anyone's interested in continuing down a journey with you, in bringing you out to where they are to come and speak, or to go down through any of the programs, or to experience some of your frameworks, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just reach out by email
What's your
or
best
to
email?
my website. So, sorry?
What's your best email then?
Yes, Regina at transformyourperformance.com. If you cannot write that down right now, then you could also just go to the contact page of my website, transformyourperformance.com, and reach out through in that way. I have a LinkedIn profile. It's really easy to find me. Regina
Nice.
Huber on LinkedIn. I have a career growth strategies newsletter, which is not only for people with corporate careers. I want to say that too, because I write a lot about leadership on that newsletter. And I have a YouTube channel at Regina Huber. So it's pretty easy to find
It
me.
is. I love it. I love it. I like to put this in here because allies, we can go and listen, but then it's like the action that makes the difference, right? So keep moving, keep grooving. Regina, what was your greatest insight from this conversation?
My greatest insight from this conversation is that I love how different podcast hosts bring out different information for their audiences. So that is a really awesome insight. We had a great conversation, definitely very different to other conversations that I've had so far. And that's very valuable to me because I thrive in diversity. I thrive
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and bringing the new and not just always talking about the same old. Uh, I think we learn so much also about the host as we talk to the host, with the host, and have those conversations as guests. I would actually love to have you on my podcast as
I would
well.
love to be on it. I would love to be on it. Yeah, well, let's make that happen.
Let's make it happen. And yes, and I do hope that this conversation has been inspirational to our audience.
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna go beyond that, like inspirational and transformational, right? Because that's just what you do, right? That's just what you do. So we're gonna keep that all on the mix. Well, Regina, the last question I have for you is a question is what I call the time capsule question, right? And in the time capsule question, it's as simple as this: if you left a message for yourself right now that you weren't going to listen to for another 10 years, but it would be like when you listen to it, it'd be exactly what you needed to hear in that moment, using the wisdom of today for where you're going in the next 10 years. What's the message that you would leave for yourself?
That is a tough one because it's probably the same as I would have left to me 10 years ago, if that's valid. So if I can say the same, then it would be, you can do it. And I say this to my clients too. We just really need to believe in ourselves. And the reason I picked this is because I always have a lot of new ideas. And sometimes we discard ideas because we think we might not be able to do it. But I always want to remind myself that I can do it.
That's it, Regina. I love that. It's simplicity, I'm finding, becomes, especially with all the options we have and all the ideas we have, like if we can keep it simple, we got it. So like it's been working for you for the last 10 years, it's gonna keep working for you here. Regina, I appreciate you. I appreciate energy that you bring in. I appreciate the thoroughness that you bring. I appreciate the life that you bring into the room. So it's like one thing to like live your a freaking awesome life yourself, but to like make the room around you experience awesomeness as well. I feel good about my life right now. I feel good about like where I'm going. And to give us a way to think about the way that we show up as leaders, we show up for ourselves and we show up for others, has just been tremendous. I appreciate you and I thank you that you do the work that you do. Thanks so much for spending time with us here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on again. It's been a true pleasure, and I look forward to having you on mine.